Hello everyone, this is Shari again. Um, this video, I would like to continue where I stopped on the writing of thesis. This is the second part, so let me share my slides. So this is, so I've already started the talk about what is a thesis. I've given these two definitions of a thesis in my first part. Reminded you that it's not an easy part of the PhD or research process. Writing, so someone have told me that the most difficult part is actually writing, and I've actually advised you to start your work, your writing work, as early as possible, the day that you start your PhD. So I've already explained to you right until probably the table of contents, whereby it will encompass these 5 major elements, which is introduction, literature review, methodology, results analysis, and conclusion and future research. Right. In fact, I've also suggested that you actually outline the table of contents. When you outline the table of content, you will actually know the related work which is overlapping. You need to discuss related work at the start of the chapter to actually set the scene, and you need to discuss the related work at the end to demonstrate your originality. And so you need to do chapter by chapter. Do not cut and paste. So that's why I suggested the other video, the first video, that you actually prepare your thesis table of content. That's the first important beginning of the what you call writing up a thesis. Okay, and you need a timetable. You need a timetable. How long will it take? Of course, it depends on many factors. This is the overall PhD progress timetable, and how much you have written as papers. When I did my PhD, actually I wrote four journal papers. Okay, 4 journal papers. So I actually broke down into like introduction to the research, and also the development of the framework, the review part, into two major papers. Okay, development of a implementation framework, review. So a review paper is very important in writing up your thesis, because when you write a review paper, submit to journal, you'll be able to get good feedback in terms of what you have missed out, what are the opinions of the reviewers that probably you have not reached to the desired academic level, the novelty of your work. So by submitting to a journal in your area, established journal in your area, and you present, your concepts and your ideas and your framework, and you rebut or you debate on other people's idea, other people's work, then probably you're going to be on the right track. So how long will it take? Many factors. Heavy tail distribution, 2 months. Well, this is just an idea only. So you need to write your thesis outline now. Okay, in this video, in this training, I'm not going to explain every detail on the steps that probably what methodology do you use. This is a writing thesis. So writing, I focus on writing. So writing each chapter. Don't start with the introduction or conclusion. So my opinion is when you write the final thesis, when you try to finalize, the finalized version is on the introduction and the conclusion. Write the literature review. You can write a draft on the introduction, but don't this to the last. Okay, start where you feel happiest. So when you write, you actually want to, when you're happiest, not to say happy, but where you feel comfortable, typically a middle chapter, then write outwards or write towards, connecting the other missing links, okay? And then finally conclusion and end with the introduction. So write everything with your thesis message in mind. So remember, I keep on emphasizing that what is your thesis? But of course, some of people, some opinion academics or some researchers and lecturers will emphasize purpose statement. It's similar, emphasize your purpose statement throughout your thesis. Keep on harping on the same. For example, I've been, when I did my PhD, there is a framework for small businesses. There is a framework for small businesses. You need a small businesses framework. So you keep on harping on that message. And I'm going to come up with a new framework. I'm going to come up with a new small business framework. Okay, so that, you build up your writing from beginning until the end with the same thesis message. Okay. So writing each chapter, you need to get feedback before you write too much. So you get another person to read each chapter as it is written. Your supervisor should be able to, when I have students, I ask them, okay, I want to see chapter 1. I want to see chapter 2. So submit chapter by chapter. Chapter 2, yeah, okay. Then I did mention just now chapter 1 was last. No, that was the final. If polish finally the chapter 1, okay. Indexing, all this bibliography, there is a lot of tools to do today that is helping, but don't depend on the tools to actually do the summary or do the critical analysis, because you need to understand when you read a journal paper. The computer cannot the whatever software available cannot be cannot comprehend as what you want. So get feedback, another person to read this is in order. Okay, so you have to. So this is a cartoon here. Spend 10 minutes each day for first X number of years, filled with anxiety, stress, and doubt whether you'll ever finish. So on your last year, sleep for 10 minutes a day. So it's a joke about, but you have to start early. Okay, writing each chapter. When you start writing, you will discover holes in your research. That's why it's not perfect. When you start writing, you see there's a lot of missing links. There's a lot of things which are disconnected. So it's important to, write and review, and also ask yourself, okay, whether this is sufficient, whether, what else should I explain, what else should I actually connect to in order to ensure that the reader is the examiner. Okay, the reader is the examiner. So if the reader, the examiner, do not understand what you are trying to convey, then you have problems. Okay, so you will discover holes, theorems you haven't proved, experiments you didn't run. So different problems or different parameters. So mix writing with more research. That means when you start writing, that means if you do all the data collection and you don't write, so you don't know where it's missing. But if you do the data collection and you write, then I need to collect more of this information. Oh, I need to do more of this analysis. If you have all the survey data already in, and oh, I've missed this, I should have asked this question. So you have to, you know, strategize on how you're going to cover that up in the writing. Okay. Now, well, you may not understand what I'm trying to convey, but sometimes when you do research, there are things that you just didn't have the prior knowledge that it was actually important to have that question in the questionnaire. But when you do analysis and you found that out, of course, you cannot return back to the data collection stage. You need to just carry on and, you know, um, give some justification on why it was left out. That's why it's important that during the methodology decision, you make sure that the instrument that you develop is already complete, almost complete, 99.9%. You have covered all the questions, or you have covered all the variables. Okay, so so it's a painstaking process of doing, research, PhD. Now, when you write, this is important, the rule of 3. So within each chapter, repeat yourself 3 times. Okay, chapter 1, introduction. In the introduction, there will be an introduction. Introduction meaning this chapter will explain on the research, provide explanation on the background of the research, what do you call, objective, the scope of the research. So we will show what is in the chapter, and then the body of the chapter. The body means the substance, the explanation, the research objective, the and conclusion. So introduction, body, conclusion. I mean, it's quite easy if you repeat this for all chapters, and at the conclusion, you don't have to write conclusion. You can put the summary. I've suggested many theses that introduction, and then definition of this, and then background of this. Finally, summary. Summary means I have shown you in this chapter what this research is about, and I'm going to connect you to the next chapter, chapter 2, which is actually the next chapter will present the literature review that was conducted, that was done to define further the research questions, research problems. So you connect literature review, you connect with the methodology. Methodology, you connect with the results. Results, you connect with the conclusion. Okay? So within thesis, repeat your contributions 3 times. Introduction, main chapters, conclusion. But don't bore reader. I mean, bore means you make the reader, you are too elaborative. You keep on repeating things we are already in the section. So that's why it's important to read and rewrite. Read, rewrite. So don't bore reader. For example, in introduction, be brief. In conclusions, be broader. Okay, so that you explain to the reader what you actually have achieved in the conclusion. Conclusion, what you have achieved. Don't talk about the results back in the what is the what you have actually acquired, findings. Okay, and so in the introduction, these are the basic thing that should be. Of course, it can be other things, but in the introduction chapter, a general review of the area of research, background. I always emphasize that. Okay, you need a background study. You need to put in the context, the right context. You need to put in the the reasons, problem statement, research questions, research objectives. Okay, and there is two school of thoughts. You have to come up with the research questions, then the objectives, some research objective, then research questions. It doesn't matter, but I believe in if you do not have the research questions, you know, then probably you cannot achieve you do not know what the objective is. Okay. So I tend to, from the literature review, you know, what are the burning issues, research questions, then you decide on your research objectives, the definition of terms. So to understand this, that's why I mentioned in the first video that you must read many theses. By reading many theses, you can see the way that different researchers have actually structured the way that the problem is being framed. Okay, the whole problem, the framing of the problem, right from the background. You know, background means you know, things which are prior to what you are going to actually explore. Okay, the background, for example, COVID, background of the situation, you must explain when was the first disease detected in China, okay, and then what happened after that. So these are, you know, background, but of course you don't have to be too elaborative. There's such, you know, the concise ideas. You summarize that in the background. For example, you know, you want to do a study on implementation of lean manufacturing in the Malaysian automotive industry. So you need a background study on automotive industry. You need a background study on the application of other techniques, for example, Six Sigma, total quality management, ISO 9000 in Malaysian context. Of course, you can refer to other countries as well to support, you know, your work. So you need a background of what's the condition of the automotive industry today. What is the percentage of implementation? You know, what are the current government initiatives in terms of implementing, you know, lean manufacturing? Okay, Majaiko projects, like, you know, the SME Corp projects, or even the NPC, Malaysian Productivity Corporation. Look at the statistics. You know, these are background study before you actually embark on trying to look at, okay, who have done it? How did they actually implement it? What are the problems? What are the critical success factors? You know, then you start, you know, zooming into your particular questions. Well, this is writing, okay, but that reflects. I mean, reflects on the way that if we have done the literature review correctly and systematically. I mean, there are many methods of doing literature review, but I believe in the whole way of doing literature review: read, understand, write. Okay, you cannot depend on what they call softwares, or, you know, those are just bibliography, or, you know, endnotes. All those are just helping you to annotate or cite. But the real understanding is reading. If you don't read properly, there is no background study. That's why many PhD work, you know, suddenly no one have done it, then it is a problem. That's wrong. What is the background? I find, sometimes I find thesis based, when I read them, there is someone, so and so found, what they call, did this, so and so did this, and nobody did this. I mean, no one have done it. It's not a good way of justifying that it is needed to be done. What are the issues? What are the situation? What are the variables? Wow. So these are something that you need to think about. Okay, please think about it. I'm just giving you some ideas. So what makes a good problem statement? Problem statement introduces the key problem that's addressed in the research project. So we're talking about writing. So you should be able to have clear idea. of what problem statement is. Okay, it is a clear, precise, and short statement of a specific issue that the researcher wishes to investigate. Like what I mentioned earlier before, a problem statement. Currently, the implementation of this technique is not that successful. Okay, how do you measure not that successful? So you have to, put in that explanation and justification. So that's why I like to use the word articulation. Articulate means to actually clearly, precisely, in a short statement, explain. Okay, and point out. You need to point out. You need to make it clear, known to the reader that it is a burning issue. It is an important, it is a critical. If I don't solve this, if I don't try to extend this body of knowledge, this is going to be detrimental to the industry, for example. So to assess quality of problem statement, it should be relevant, feasible, it should be interesting. So what is relevant? Nothing is known about the topic. Much is known about the topic, but the knowledge is scattered. Much research is available, but results are contradictory. There are established relationships. Established relationships do not hold in certain situations. Okay, for example, TQM framework for large company. No. For small company, situation is the context is small. No, cannot apply. So you can try to figure out. Okay. But be careful. Do not just introduce. I've seen many theses with just a problem of, for example, there is a relationship between quality management and organizational performance. Established. You can read many work on this, and you start introducing what they call this moderating and mediating factors. It's affected by culture. It's affected by ISO 9000, and that's why I said earlier. They keep on introducing another variable that interacts between the independent and the dependent variable without justifying whether do you really want this moderating factor into this situation. So I mean, it's nice to keep on adding and just to make it complicated, but at the end of the day, what is the practical improvement to the industry? Okay, problem is feasible. We are able to answer the problem statement within the restriction of this project. These restrictions are possibly related to time and money and expertise of the researcher. So the problem is doable within that time frame, 3 years. Okay. So a problem may be too difficult to answer. So if it is too difficult to answer, that means you're trying to solve the world's problem. Okay. My supervisor, when I did my PhD, she told me, when you do your PhD, you don't have to prove anything. You don't have to prove to the world that you're going to be someone expert and become a Nobel Prize winner by solving this. No, you won't. Okay, don't try to prove anything. Solve the defined problem, and it is a learning process. It's a process of trying to become a researcher. Okay, so that's why it is important that you develop a narrowly defined question that can be investigated within a reasonable amount of time. So that only by doing so, you'll be able to transfer those results and also your problem into writing easily. Okay. If not, you have difficulty trying to even phrase what you're trying to prove. Okay. Problem is interesting. because research is time-consuming process. That's why those who are embarking on PhD, I mean, before you embark on PhD, you have to ask a question. Why are you embarking on PhD? Now, but now you're already writing stage. You must know why you are embarking on PhD, why you are trying to earn a PhD. Academics, it is almost compulsory. There's no question about it. But if you are in industry, okay, and you really want to use the knowledge acquired after doing the PhD in order to solve the real world problem, for example, industrial PhD. So they really want to become a researcher and solve industrial PhD, solve the real industry problems. Okay. So because it is time consuming, you will go through many ups and downs before you present the final version of your research report. That is common. Okay, you do not, there's no one person who actually write first draft and get everything right, unless he has already done the work before and he just submitting whatever he has written, a book. That is a book, that's not a research. Okay. So it is important, it is vital that you're interested in your problem statement for the 3 years and you can stay motivated throughout the entire process. Okay, so problem you alone understand, and you're going to be playing with the problem for 3 years and now writing it. Then you have to write it, because after going 3 years, you'll be able to understand it. Okay, right. This is an example of problem statement. Surface finishes. This is quite old, but it's okay. Have been used. Okay, this is background. Surface finishes have been used in the electronic packaging industry to protect substrate material. This is a background. And then these finishes have been chosen based on several criteria. They should at least have reasonable shelf life and so on. Then, so it is about lifetime and then withstanding multiple reflow process. So that is kind of the burning issue. Then you go to background, burning issue, then purpose. Okay. So you want to come up with a new substrate or something like, the division of solder into the underlying metal. So you have to coin it very precisely. Okay, so that's an example. You can refer to many other books about a problem statement. Now, the next thing that you should be able to cover in chapter 1 is objectives. Objectives are statements, not questions. Statements. Statement, for example, to do something, to develop a new procedure, to develop a new methodology, to develop a new framework, okay, to design a new something, okay, and they are numbered in the list, but I suggest that you shouldn't have more than 5 or 4. That's my opinion, okay. And there are successive steps that you need to take in order to answer your research question. So if you want to develop a framework, first of all, you need to identify, for example, the current framework that exists. What are the weaknesses? What are the strengths that they have? Okay. Then probably you want to go to the process of proposing, a conceptual, proposed framework, a proposed idea based on your analysis of what is available. And of course, this have to be verified or given to experts to agree. So then it links to the methodology. You have to use, for example, interviews or Delphi methods, observation. So proposed method, proposed framework. Then come up with the final framework. So this also need to go through the verification steps. Okay, so it become like a 4-stage Delphi methods of trying to achieve reach to your objective and answering the research questions. Okay. Now, some people like you have 3 research questions with 3 research objectives, and of course 1 outcome. What is your sometimes people ask, what is the contribution? Contribution is, what is your output? You have to think about what is the expected output, beginning from your research. Well, of course, when you already write your thesis, you already know what is that you want to claim as your research output or your product or your outcome. People who do structured equation modeling, okay, the final model that you have verified and tested is going to be claimed as your contribution to knowledge. Okay. So how do you write your objectives? Objectives are structured using action words to assess, to develop, to provide an acting of, to examine, to analyze, to interpret, to articulate, to establish, to construct, to and other things. Okay, it's not exhaustive. So your action words should be oriented towards an outcome, an interpretation, an assessment or reassessment. Be careful of words that are not precise about what you want to know. The word explore. Explore is too big to explore. Okay, if you've done a proper literature review to determine the variables, okay, to come up with some proposed variables to determine, to develop variables, to develop instruments, okay, to propose to develop instrument to measure something. Okay, objectives are, of course, it depends on the area that you're studying. For example, to identify a problem, to develop a solution, to design, implement the solution, to assess its impact. Okay, so they identify the variable, to develop the new instrument, to design, implement the instrument, to assess the impact of the instrument. So this is an example. So for the objective of the project, to investigate the interfacial reaction between material, to quantify the effect of solid state aging on formation of the established. Well, I took this from a book, okay, but you can see here, even though it is engineering bias or science bias, it really, impacts. It really, at the end of the day, you have some results, some outcome that will be actually able to answer this objective, to establish the effect of something to something. The effect. So you design the method to see the effect and you show the results. Okay, you can show some, I don't know, SEM microscope, what we call material properties that actually been resulted from this. So these are not in materials area, but you can actually decide objective and then methodology. Because remember, you're going to write the methodology chapter. Methodology should support the objective. Problem is, if the objective is not in line with the methodology, then you're going to be in trouble because it can be seen in writing. It can be actually, if you read through any thesis, you can see the flow of ideas. Okay, this is the objectives, this is the methodology, this is the results. It's very connected. For example, if you say you want to assess the reliability of solder joints, and in the method there is no assessing of this reliability, and there is no results, then you are going to be in big trouble. Simple as that. Okay. And of course, in the chapter 1, probably you also can provide the scope, the area that will be considered in the proposed research. I've seen some theses, they actually draw diagram and they put the areas in which people have investigated and they draw boundary, and this area of research for my study or for this study. Okay, and they justify why it is being considered or being limited to that. Okay, a flow chart or a diagram that shows different areas, and you delineate your area. Okay, from now on, I will not work on anything else except my thesis. So this is typical of all PhD students. They want to write. Even my students also want to write. Keep on. I will write. I will write. You know, at the end now is like after 3 years, not writing. No, and when they report back to duty, they cannot write anymore. They're busy with their, teaching, university lecturers, or even government servant. They report for duty and they haven't finished writing. So write as early as possible, and find time. Time time is like this. If you don't find time, if I don't find time trying to produce this, I won't be able to produce this, sharing of knowledge. Could you? No. Will you? No. Any progress? No. See, any progress? No. Writing block, writer's block. Okay, so writing good introduction require you to know what the body of the thesis. Consider writing the introduction after you've completed thesis rather than before. I always tell my student, you can come up with a draft, but final introduction, or even during the writing of the thesis, the chapter itself, the introduction is 2.1, introduction to literature. Last, include a hook at the beginning of the introduction. An interesting statement to motivate reader to read the rest of the work. An important scientific problem you want to solve or address. So it is important to include a hook. Okay, this chapter will provide a background of provide a critical and extensive review of the related topics, beginning from definition of quality. This will be followed by the description of the variables that is being used, and the chapter culminates with, so that's why you read thesis, read a lot of papers, and you can see and you immerse yourself as a writer. Okay, the next paragraph, introduction should cite previous research in this area, cite those who had the ideas first, also cite those who had done the most recent and relevant work. You should then go on to explain why more work was necessary, your work, of course. Introduction session also have the statement of the goal, why the study was undertaken, sufficient background information to allow reader to understand the context and significance. So it's important to make the reader understand what nobody can read your mind. No one can read my mind. Okay, put things in context and significance of the question that you are trying to address. Acknowledge previous work on which you are building. Sufficient references such that a reader could, by going to the library, achieve a sophisticated understanding of the context of the research. We are the writer who should be summarizing other people's work. If we just cut and paste and copy verbatim, word per word, it doesn't have any understanding or to the reader. We understand, then we translate that into our own words. Okay, and that's why it's difficult. That's why it is difficult. You have to put it in your own words. Right. So I'm repeating this. This is a question. You have to summarize everything, explain the scope. Okay, this is also the same thing. So a verbal roadmap, a verbal table of contents, guiding the reader of what lies ahead. I mean, the layout of this is, okay, I've seen that also in chapter 1, layout of this is. Last section of the chapter 1. Chapter 1 has described the introduction to the, chapter 2 will present. So this is something which is good, so that the reader reading the first introduction will know what to expect in the thesis, okay? So you must, is it obvious that introductory material, that means old stuff that you have read, this will have to end somewhere. And you start explaining your new stuff. New stuff means your own. So there is a continuity between, past research findings and the gap. That's why many people ask me, gap, research gap. This is what it means. If you are able to have the connection that this is something that people have done, and now from this paragraph onwards, it's going to be mine, going to be my ideas. This is how problems are not being solved. So we are looking for original work and interpretation or analysis by you, right? So break up the introduction into logical segments by using subjects. Okay, I think I'm going to stop here because the next chapter is the teacher review. So I've given you an outline of the introduction. Okay, so probably there'll be a few more parts in this video, and I hope you will be patient. Sorry, excuse me. You'll be patient enough to wait until I complete all the parts, the teacher review methodology, but it is only on writing. Okay, so thank you very much. I hope you will be sharing is beneficial for you, and all the best to you. Good luck in your writing. Work hard and work smart. You don't just work smart. You have to work hard as well and work smart. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.